Listen to this episode if you have ever wondered what the different phases of business growth are, what are the objectives that you need to take, and what are the key focuses in every step for you to consistently level up. Today, we are talking from pre-revenue all the way up to $5 million plus in sales. I'm really going to break down what is necessary, what are your key objectives, and what you need to know in every single stage, what you need to be doing, what you need to know, and what your really key goal is in every single stage to consistently level up in revenue, in growth, and in momentum in everything that you're doing. I am really excited about this episode today. I really just want to dive in to some strategic pieces because I think this is a big element. It's like people are like, what do I even know what to prioritize? How do I know what to prioritize? How do I know what I should be doing now? There's so much information out there. You should be trying to focus on sales. You should be expanding. You should be growing your audience. You should be doing so many different pieces. What is your goal within your current stage of business? And what does that really take in order to continuously level up? So I am so excited to be bringing this over to you. 10 quick seconds. Just want to say hello. My name is Madison Page. I am a business growth specialist. I help you turn your small business into a brand so you can achieve all of those big, audacious goals that you have. This podcast is for serious business owners. This is for people that are really trying to dive deep and meet those big goals, multi 6, 7-figure brands. They want to be in homes. They want to be in the household name list. They want to be in that next go-to kind of it girl type of brand. That's what we're talking about here today. I have my blazer on. I have it on 75%. For whatever reason, tangent, I hate a blazer on my arms, but I love it over my shoulder. So we're getting legit today. I have a blazer on, one of those crazy days where I actually kind of dressed up. So we're talking about this here today. So we're going to go into seven different phases. I don't know what I was thinking when I said 5, but we're going into 7 different phases here and really mapping these different pieces out of what do you need at all of the different stages of business? How do we really build and what are the key objectives? The first things first is pre-revenue. So we're starting pre-launch with this. You might already be post-launch, but these are still things that you need. And even if you're already making $150,000 a year in your business, it's still good to know what are some of these foundational principles that you should have at least prior to get there, because this isn't a one size fits all type of thing. You've heard me say this, business growth is nuanced. So, your business support needs to be nuanced as well. Your advice needs to be nuanced. That's why I give this disclaimer is, some people get past this without some of these pieces, but it is still good concrete foundation that you should have to know that you have all of the pieces kind of in place in order to scale as well. So pre-revenue, you are basically in the validation phase. We're trying to figure out what is your brand, solidify the overall foundations, validate your product idea, see that there's actually a little bit of there's actually a need for it out there. We're identifying your ideal customer. We're building out your simple product suite, not having too many SKUs, and we're really starting to build a community. That is really what our major focus is here, is get your concrete foundations really set. We need to look at what your foundational pillars are of your business. We're looking at your ideal customer. We're looking at your branding. We're looking at your differentiator. What is different about you versus other people? In this pre-revenue phase, what we really need to do is we need to look at your industry, do a lot of research of what's already out there, set you apart from them, make sure people actually want what sets you apart, and start building that foundational element of a community around it. If I were to start a brand new product-based business, I would start a community at 3 to 6 months ahead of time and really just start a new profile and start to build a community of the ideal customers that I'm looking to build. That's what this pre-revenue phase is. What you need to know in this phase, pre-revenue, is who your business really is at the core. You need to get used to testing things. You need to get used to getting feedback and people telling you, oh, I don't really understand that. Because what we're really trying to do, this phase is all about curiosity. Don't overthink the feedback that you're getting. We want to look at that as curiosity rather than critical. Don't feel like, oh my gosh, these people are going to hate it. It's like, okay, why was their reaction that way? Why was that their initial thought? Why was that something that they thought right away? And how can we change our messaging, change our, our positioning? How can we really adapt to the overall market? So what you need to know here is you need to know that you need to be curious rather than critical of yourself. You need to know that the details really do matter when it comes to branding, when it comes to your messaging, I always say this, but disruptive brands are built in the details, and your disruptive brand can be built in this pre-revenue stage. It's something you can do at any time, but you really need to be focusing on what is the actual like lifestyle of somebody that supports your brand. What are they wearing? What is their nail polish color? What is their favorite meal? What are they doing on the weekends? We need to know them really, really well. And then we need to know what their feedback is and what their initial reaction is, and actually get out there and start talking to some of these people. So what you need to know is we need to really, disruptive brands are built in the details. Get curious from people's feedback and getting those pieces out there. Get concrete on who your brand is at the core. Get in the habit of talking about your product and really kind of like selling it, almost like your elevator pitch. What is it all about? How do we really go from there? And realize that from a marketing perspective, from a building of the business perspective, what's important right now is connection and community. You're just providing value. You might be creating connection to you as the business founder if you're kind of building in that founder-led building phases. Pre-revenue, your goal is to build community, build connection, get evidence that this is going to be a good idea, and make sure that we have proof of concept and everything very concrete. So when we do launch, there's no cracks in that foundation. The next stage is kind of that early revenue phase, or that like a launch phase after we get out there and we're in this building phase. I would say, the revenue ranges are kind of a loose estimate. I would say this is from like $1,000 to $50,000 a year in sales. What your key objectives are here is getting your product out into a community of people and figuring out the proof of concept in the marketing and the sales process. This is exactly what we do. We do the pre-revenue with people in PTP all the time. I have plenty of pre-revenue clients that come in that want to really launch in a solid way. So I work with a lot of people in PTP in that, but this is also what we teach you inside of PTP. A lot of the curriculum is really getting your marketing and your sales frameworks really solid and really structured out there. What we're trying to do is figuring out how you can make sales consistently and what's absolutely necessary. So we are now getting proof of concept in your marketing and your sales process. We're looking at the buying cycle from start to finish. Where are your breakdowns and how can we overall fill those gaps? Note, my focus here is not going viral. My focus here is on refinement. It's on proof of concept, and it's on selling to the people that we have in your community. It's on building aligned people, and it's figuring out what actually makes people buy. So we're refining. We are looking at your pricing, at your offers, at your products, the details, the website. We are looking at the full spectrum of the consumer behavior here. We're looking at how are people finding you? How can we replicate that? We're looking at how are people connecting with you and really resonating and really feeling activated? How can we replicate that? How are people buying from you? Do they like sales? Do they like launches? What is really working for you, and how do we really go about that? And then where are your bottlenecks in that process? Is it your website? Are people coming to your website and they're not buying from you? What do we really need to tweak? Now, this phase is really all about building trust via your organic content in your community. It's really fostering this like baseline level of people that just absolutely adore you. This is our goal inside of PTP, my program to help you get to consistent sales, is to really allow for you to have just this baseline level of people that are obsessed with you, building your community, really trusting you, loving what your values are. And we're also getting you to the point of understanding exactly what you need to post to grow, nurture, and sell to your audience. And what is that repeated action that you can take in order to kind of put your sales and your marketing on autopilot. I don't want you to have to be overthinking your sales and your marketing all of the time. I want us to put that in kind of like a seamless sales system that allows for people to come back and forth. I want you to create kind of your reliable market of sales, whether that be search, whether that be social, whether that be influencer marketing, whatever that might be. We want to create a reliable funnel of sales to come in, of where people are consistently buying from you. So yes, you're going to have a community that's going to keep repeat buying from you. Yes, you're going to have a marketing strategy that is constantly bringing new people in, converting them into a community member, and then selling to them on your website. But we really need to have kind of this home base. And so what this is all about is really getting like concrete evidence of exactly what you need to do from a sales and a marketing perspective. This is where your imposter syndrome can feel incredibly loud. This is where you are constantly questioning, am I not doing something right? Should I be doing something different? Is this me? Is this the product? Is this the marketing? There's a lot of questions here, and we have to push through that. A lot of brands never get past this stage. And I'm just going to be so honest with you. And I see people people that I work with all the time that are coming to me being like, Maddie, I haven't gotten out of this phase in years of trying to build a business. Why? Is because you don't have direct action and you aren't following your long-term vision from the very start. You aren't taking action based on where you're trying to go over and over and over again. People oftentimes, the last week's episode that came out, people oftentimes try something, it's not working within 6 weeks. Okay, let me try something new. That must not work. They're trying this, it didn't work in 6 weeks. Okay, scrap that. Let me try something new. They don't actually ever learn the solid frameworks and strategies. Sales and marketing is a framework. It is a formula. And anybody that tells you it's not is lying to you. And it really is a formula. It is a framework. Of course, there's nuances for everybody, and some things work different for you versus somebody in your same industry. Not everything works exactly the same, but people need the same core principles in order for you to scale to this capacity. So your imposter syndrome is loud. You have to push through it. Your doubts are loud. You have to keep going. Everybody that is now making $5 million in their business right now had to go through this phase, but if they would have quit when their fears popped up, when their doubts popped up, they wouldn't have gotten to where they are. Every sale, every interaction, every content piece is data. We are looking at all elements of data right now. We are looking at evidence. We have to get curious. We're looking at your numbers. I am a big time numbers gal. If you know me, I'm a little bit of a data nerd, and we have to not get discouraged. Even in so many businesses, people come to me and be like, oh, Maddie, this didn't work. This other reel did really well. This one didn't really perform well. Like, what the heck is going on? I'm like, oh, don't be frustrated with that. That is so much data to tell us what your audience really likes. We're constantly going back to your website data, your email data, your social media data to see what is working and how can we do more tweaks? How can we do more tests in order to see what is actually working and getting you to the point of knowing you just need to talk about this topic with this type of media over and over and over again and see the results that you're really looking for from that. Here, what we're focusing on is really learning. You need to learn the foundations. You need to have the frameworks. This is not the fancy bells and whistles. You don't need much in this phase other than consistent marketing and consistent tweaks to your sales process. What we need to do here is get sales. I was listening to a podcast with Emma Grede and Mark Cuban, and I think it was Mark Cuban said, sales cures all. As long as we can get sales, that's all that matters. And in this phase, your major focus is on figuring out your marketing and your sales process. And if you don't have your marketing and your sales process dialed, if you don't have a strategy that you're following, if you don't have things that you're testing, this is what you need to focus on. And again, the revenue range here can be all across the board, but this is for, people under kind of 50K, even under 100K. I've had plenty of people come to me that are making $100,000 a year in their business, but they're not yet to this point, and then they're not able to scale because they've kind of just growth hacked their way there. So this early revenue phase or this launch phase or kind of just getting to that consistent sales mark is all about being really intentional with your marketing and your sales process. This is exactly what we do inside of PTP with all of my people. This is why we actually have a curriculum at this stage in business, is because there actually is a knowledge base that you need to know in order to get there. This is how I can have a framework here, is because you need to have these different pieces in your marketing and your sales process to understand and to learn what it really takes in order to get to that consistent sales mark. It's how I can actually have a curriculum to it, is because it is a science. It is an absolute strategy and a formula and a framework. The next stage is stage 3. Hey, I'm jumping in here for 30 quick seconds for those of you listening and thinking, all right, but how do I actually apply this to my business? Every week here, I share strategies, case studies, growth mistakes to avoid, but your business growth is nuanced. So your business support has to be nuanced as well. That's why all of my support includes me inside of your business, your ideas, your launches, your content, perfecting what you're already building and uncovering your hidden opportunities to scale. This isn't a cookie cutter course. It's a high level personalized support system to help you optimize your brand, your strategy, and every single person your business touches. If you want my eyes and my brain on your branding, your sales, your marketing, and your overall growth plan, click the link in the show notes to apply. Let's see what we can build together. This is the consistent sales phase. This is kind of like you're feeling a little bit of stability, which is awesome. You know, at the baseline of how much sales you are bringing in every single month. You know that when you post certain things, you'll get a certain reaction. You've basically nailed one reliable sales channel. You know where people are coming in. You know that those people, whether it be return customers, whether it be search, whether it be social, you have one kind of more reliable sales channel. You know that that's happening. What you have to do in this phase is really prep your business for a major expansion phase. What this phase is we have to get your business ready to really have a massive influx. This is where it's a lot of refining and doing behind the scenes stuff before we can do kind of the outwards. You hear me talk about this in scaling a business. You know, this is like $50,000 to $150,000 in sales is where you're at. You're like, all right, you know, I'm almost at six figures or I've hit six figures. Now, how do I really scale and go big? I have a lot of clients that get stuck in this phase is because they never actually do the behind the scenes stuff. They just keep sticking to what got them here. And what will get you here is not going to get you to the next phases. This is really a transition in your business from being like, all right, you know, we're doing it. We got this brand. It's working. We're getting proof of concept to being like, all right, we got to get serious here. We got to get a little bit more legit. So you need to improve your back end systems, make sure that you have inventory, make sure that your fulfillment, your distribution, your shipping, your customer service, all of those pieces are very streamlined. And because if right now what we're doing is we're prepping you to 10x your sales, we're prepping you to see massive growth. And if you don't have the back end systems that are going to allow for that, if you don't have the production, if you don't have the shipping team, if we don't have people ready, if we don't have ideas or processes or, you know, different pieces streamlined, different systems in place, you're going to lose people. So yes, we have to improve the back end. We're basically prepping your business for massive growth. We also are really focusing on customer retention because the easiest way to grow your business is to just maintain the customers that you are getting. Anybody will try a business once. Anybody will try a product once. Just you can get somebody to buy from you one time pretty easily just out of building enough intrigue. But to get somebody to be brand loyal to you is actually really hard. To get somebody to love you over everybody else and only buy right back from you takes a strategy, but it also is what compounds your sales to be more consistent, to continuously grow, be more profitable, and actually make growth a lot easier on you because it's not on you to go out and find new customers all the time. We're trying to get them to stick around. So we also have to master your customer retention here. How can we get people to buy from you more often? How can we create that brand loyalty? And we're optimizing a lot of different refinements here. So what I do with people at this stage, this is more of like a strategic advisory phase because this is scaling. So, you know, I work with people at a bunch of different levels. The first two phases are PTP. We get you to this consistent sales point. We get you to this point. And of course, we work, if you're at this point in PTP, you grow quick enough, we will do some of these pieces behind the scenes. But a lot of this is scaling because we figured out your sales and marketing. Now you need refinement. Now you need a lot of different tweaks and adjustments. So what we do here is we analyze your data, we simplify your backend, we optimize your eyes that you have. So we're looking at your website, we're looking at your email, we're looking at your marketing, we're looking at all of these pieces and saying, how can we optimize the conversion rate of everything that you have? Because before we grow, we want to make sure that if you have a video that gets 10 million views, we have optimized your 10 million views to convert at the highest possible level. So we're making small tweaks and adjustments to your website because small little changes, again, disruptive brands are built in the details. Small little changes is what makes a really big difference. I have changed one line item on somebody's website and their average order value went up $35, which was 30% increase on every single order on average. Why is because that one line item, I saw that there was a gap there and we need to make those small little changes. So we've nailed one reliable sales channel. Now it's time to streamline your behind the scenes. We need to make sure that you are creating a customer retention like strategy that we know that we can retain customers before we get into all these new people, as well as we're optimizing your messaging, your marketing, your socials, your website. We're making small little tweaks and adjustments to improve conversion rates to followers, to customers, to email, all of those different pieces. What you need to know in this phase is if you are stuck here for too long, you're probably doing too much. If you're stuck here for too long, you're trying to do, honestly, you're either doing too much or too little. You're either doing too much of trying a bunch of new things and never really actually going narrow and deep into it. Something to really note here is in stage 1 and 2, we really just mastered one thing. We mastered one thing, and now we can get a little bit after this phase, we can get a little bit more crafty, but there's not a lot of bells and whistles quite yet. And so if you add in too many bells and whistles at this point, your audience is going to be like, what is going on? We're not ready to scale yet. We need to do 2 more phases before we can really scale in a big way. So what we're doing at this phase is we're really trying to remove the chaos and actually get really good at it. So you're either doing too much or you're doing too little, meaning you're just doing exactly what you've been doing, thinking that your business is consistently going to grow. I always say, what got you to 10K months is not going to get you to 50K months, because what is different between the building phase and the scaling phase is a completely different strategy, which is why I even separate them in my support. I need you to get obsessed with your community in this point. We want your return customer rate at this point to be really, really high, meaning over probably 40 to 50% at least. I had a client this week that her return customer rate was 78%, which she is in this phase. And now we're ready to bring her into stage 4. But what we're trying to do here is realize that we can retain customers, we can get people to buy consistently, and people absolutely adore what we have, and we have a really great community. We need to dial in those systems so you're not rebuilding every time that you have a big time growth phase. Every time you have new people coming in, all of a sudden you're floundering and you're chaotic and you don't know how to fulfill the orders or manage the business that you've built. The next phase is stage 4. This is the expansion phase or the growth phase. This is to get you from like 150K to like $500,000, $750,000 in sales. And this is where rapid expansion happens, which is why we have to prepare you in phase 3 for this phase. This is a massive visibility phase. This is a phase where we are trying to get you to get in front of as many people as possible. This is really where we are doing a big brand awareness phase. Where I want you is we just have to get you, now we know your marketing and your sales process dialed in. We know that when you get in front of people, they buy from you, they stick around, they love you, they rave about you, and they refer you. And we know that your whole system behind the scenes is all really structured to sell to people. And so what we're doing here is we are doing, yes, refinements, but what your major focus is getting in front of the right people in a really big way. And so this is kind of what I call the audience surge cycle. We need to get you in front of a lot of people. On TikTok where all of a sudden this random brand is popping up all day, every day. You've never heard of them. And then all of a sudden they're a huge brand. This is the phase that they were in. They were in this stage 4. They were making good money. They were, 150, 500,000. They were there, but they haven't yet gotten to, they didn't get to that more mass market. This is where we're taking you a little bit more mass market. So what's happening here is we do want to make sure that your profit margins are really solid. And honestly, this is something that I do in stage 3 as well, is we want to look at your margins. This is another thing that we're optimizing just to make sure that your products do have enough margins that when we bring people in to actually buy from you, that, your profitability is there, the scalability to this model is there. It's okay at this point if your profit margin isn't as high as it could be after this phase. Your profits will increase when we get to the next step so much more, just because you're going to be able to have a much higher minimum order quantity. Your cost of goods is going to be going down because you'll be able to buy in a little bit more bulk. So what we're really doing here is we're actually cutting the fluff. We're simplifying things, and we're really going narrow and deep into one major thing and getting you in front of the right people. We're doubling down on your message. We're trying to really build you an aligned community and really have a major growth phase. Now, scaling chaos just creates more chaos. So we have to look at this again. We have to systemize before this. What we've really done in stage 3 to prepare us for stage 4 is to hopefully minimize that chaos. But you might have it. You might have a video go viral. You might have an influencer post about you, and then you get 500 sales overnight. And we have to be ready for that. This also might be a great time to hire help in the production side of things, in the shipping side of things, in the fulfillment, if you haven't already outsourced that. Your brand matters now. Your values matter more now than really, truly your product alone. What people care about in this phase is who you are they going to stick around, and what are the values? What type of community are you building? Because for these next couple of phases, we're prepping your community for some big time expansion. We're prepping your brand for some big time expansion. And so you have to be systemized. We have to get things really solid. Your brand now matters more than your product alone. Yes, people needed to love your product, but you've had proof of concept on your product. What we're really scaling here is brand. What we're really scaling here is community, is message, is values. What I want to note before we go on to stage 5, what hasn't happened yet is that we are consistently dropping new launches all of the time. We haven't really launched new products. Now you might have a brand that we want to have seasonal little collection releases or something like that. But something that I haven't said in any of this is that you're dropping something new every single couple of weeks or every single month. Why? Is because you're actually not allowing your audience to really sink into your product or your brand at that point without kind of moving people all over the place. So we've really gone narrow and deep with just a few SKUs. Honestly, some of the most fastest growing businesses started with under 5 SKUs. So just realize that. So now that stage 5 is we're getting into the scaling phase, and we're really trying to build some infrastructure, and we're really starting to get to be much more of a brand. Like, you are putting your foundations in, like your claws are in the ground, and we are really building here. This is where we start to hit kind of that 7-figure mark in your business. What we're doing here is you need a team. You need to realize as the business owner that you are now kind of transitioning into being a leader. You are transitioning into being realizing that you can't do it all, and you have to hire for your weaknesses. You have to allow for people to help you. We need to look in fulfillment. We need to look in marketing. We need to look in operations. We need to identify what your zone of genius is and what else do we need to hire out, because we have too many things going on in your business for you to be able to do everything at this point. We have to start trusting other people. We also can start thinking a little bit more about campaigns, launches. We're planning ahead a lot more. You know, if you have a team, we are starting to kind of plan ahead. Other people can be working ahead on things. And what we're really trying to do is we're really trying to replicate what we've been doing, but adding in some of those bells and whistles. So this is where we can start to add in some bells and whistles, whether that be product launches, campaigns, you know, separate little photo shoots, seasonal releases, different kind of collaborations. Maybe you have a product with a major influencer that's coming in. This is where we're getting a little bit craftier with our creative side of our business. This is where we're getting a little bit craftier with the really like the CC, like the chief creative officer. They get to have a lot of fun here. Like, if you are the creative behind your brand, this is where you really get to shine and you really get to start flourishing. So we have to build out a team. We have to start really thinking about the creative side, the campaigns. We're really keeping a close eye on our finances, cutting expenses, cutting fluff where it's not leading to ROI, and realizing that we can invest back into our business now because we have the profit. We're shopping around for suppliers, making sure that you have the cheapest cost of goods that you can. And we're really building more of a customer journey here, which means, you know, if this is your main product, we have products that might be an entry to that and a post to that. So, you know, if they're coming in for this, what are they doing after they purchase that one major hero product? Where do we want them to start? Where do we want them after? And what does their kind of lifespan look like of working, like actually buying from your brand? Do they narrow in on one product, or are we trying to kind of have them have a ritual or a variety in what you have here? Your time matters so much in this category, because what you're really doing is a lot of what you're doing most of the time depends on who you are as a founder, is you are the creative juices. You are really trying to bring that, like, you can get kind of scrappy in this level. Again, we're cutting out the fluff. You can't scale what we haven't systemized. So what will be very evident in this stage is where your cracks are. Where are we flailing? Where are we not really hitting the mark quite yet? And what can we actually do to scale from here? So, you know, before this, we were really just getting in front of new people. Now you have a totally different business. You just went from $150,000 a year to we're trying to hit kind of that $1 million mark, which means you have 10x the amount of orders you have. You have 10x the amount of customer service complaints that you have. You have 10x the amount of orders you have to fulfill and make and produce. There's so many different pieces here. All of your cracks will start to show. And what is really important is getting your community to consistently back you, get more referrals, get more people to come in. But again, we're creating that foundational level before we scale in a really big way again. When we are looking at stage 6, what we just did is we just systemized our back end, we found our cracks, and now we're ready to kind of scale in a big way again. What I want you to notice here is really, we first had to get the sales and the marketing in phase 1 and 2. And then we prepped our business for a big growth phase. We did a lot of the behind the scenes, a lot of the like kind of systemizing the back end side. We're doing a lot of the inward stuff, the behind the scenes thing. And then we did a massive expansion growth phase. So then we got out into a lot of new people. We got in front of a lot of people in order to kind of, again, keep proving our concept, getting enough brand recognition. And then what did we do is we built more infrastructure. We closed all of the gaps. We systemized some pieces. We streamlined, we optimized. And now what are we doing? You guessed it. We're doing another major growth phase. This is where more expansion a lot of times is necessary. So I've talked about this before. I have a couple of episodes from maybe last month or so where I was talking about scaling your brand. And there's like 4 major ways to scale. You can either get in front of new people, or you can create new products and kind of expand your product suite. You can sell more to your current people, or you can optimize the current eyes that you have. So we can kind of choose one of these, but really what most brands do in this phase is they're actually expanding either product lines or distribution channels. What people do here is they're either expanding to try to get in a wholesale in a really big way, is they're trying to get into Target, they're trying to get into Anthropology, they're trying to get into whatever, they're trying to get into more wholesale opportunities, or they are trying to expand their product suite in a really big way. And a lot of times it really depends, again, on that long-term goal, because your objectives are different, whether you're building direct to consumer, whether you're building to have it in stores, or you're building to sell, whatever that kind of looks like. What we need to do here is you should really have all of your major functions of your business pretty well outsourced. You should have people helping with marketing, with finance, with operations, and really understanding that you are really more of the leader here. You are in CEO mode. You are the leader. You can be the creative director. And what we're really doing here is we are establishing different channels. We're establishing brand partnerships, wholesale, new channels, new distribution, because what we're doing again is we're going into another major expansion phase, trying to broaden the horizons. Now that we built the infrastructure in phase 5, we're going back out and trying to expand. And honestly, growing your business from this point on is that constant ebb and flow, building infrastructure and then expanding to maintain it, building more infrastructure and then expanding in order to maintain it from there. So here we're maximizing customer lifetime value, making sure that your community is still very, very happy. We're not trying to lose quality. So we're trying to maintain that customer lifetime value, and we're strengthening your cash flow, your profitability, because again, as you order more, as you start to have $1 to $3 million a year in your business, we have a lot of capacity, or we have a lot of orders going out. We have a lot of inventory going on. So what that is actually decreasing your overall cost of goods, which allows you to go out and have higher profitability in your brand. So again, this phase is all about establishing brand partnerships, wholesale, new distribution channels, and really getting out from there. What you need to know is this is less about the hustle and more about making the right decisions. At this phase, we do see people make some mistakes. We see people scale their product suite too quickly, that they go from having 5 SKUs to 50, and then holy cow, is your fulfillment a disaster? Holy cow, your marketing is way more diluted, everything is a lot harder. I wouldn't quite scale your product suite that much. Now you can add a couple of pieces in there, start selling some new products to your community, kind of up that average order value. But what we need to do is we need to zoom out, and we need to take short-term actions that have a long-term strategy. We need to look at your long-term vision, because now we're choosing what is your next step. You have $1 million business. You have a 7-figure business. You're making incredible sales. Hopefully your profit is starting to stabilize. If it's not, we need to work on that. And what we're doing here is now we're saying, where do we really want to go? What do we want to kick out? What do we want to add? What are we really excited about? What is this long-term vision? You can choose, do I want to build to $50 million direct to consumer and then sell? Or am I trying to make this my legacy brand and run it for the next 20 years? What am I really trying to do in the long-term strategy? Do I want to be in wholesale? Do I want to be direct to consumer? Do I want to do whatever, TikTok shop or Amazon or all of these other pieces? Or do I really want to do a different route? What is that kind of long-term strategy? And then we have to come up with what those short-term actions are to make that happen. At this point, your business must run without you being the bottleneck. You are the bottleneck of your sales very often in business. This is something where we need to have other people helping you make decisions. We need to allow for you to understand that there are bottlenecks, and we're really trying to overcome that. And as the founder, if you are holding your business back because you're afraid to expand in this way, you're you're afraid to invest back into your business, you can end up being the bottleneck here as well. The seventh and final stage that we will talk about today is going to be multi-million-dollar growth and your legacy phase. This is where you're really building a business that's going to last, that's going to sustain, that's going to really expand. And again, we're constantly doing at this stage of business, at the scaling phase, we're constantly building more infrastructure and then getting seen in a different area. We're building more infrastructure and then we're rapidly expanding. So the last phase was a lot of delegating, expanding. Here, what we're doing is we're focusing on sustainable versus rapid. We're focusing on how can we, again, keep customers? How can we maintain this level of sales? What is working? What can we put on autopilot? And what are the different areas here that we can look for? Now, there's a lot of different possibilities, but once you get to the $3 to $5 million mark, your possibilities are kind of endless because you have a very marketable business as long as you have profit in there. What a lot of people are looking for here is some people think about selling their business once they get to this point. Of course, that's not something you have to do. Some people, they will exit, they will get an acquisition, they will have an investor come in because you're at this phase that you could get again into other distribution, which is also building infrastructure. So maybe, we see businesses do this kind of in the consumer packaged goods is they might get into the distribution network of whatever it is. Like, what are some of those really big? They're getting into the grocery store distribution network. I saw Bloom Nutrition did this. They got into, I believe it was like Dr. Pepper Keurig. And so now they were in that distribution network. So now anybody that orders from Dr. Pepper Keurig, it allows for them to go out into these really big new, they're in Target, they're in all grocery stores, they're in Walmart, and they kind of just have this distribution network. So yes, this last time we were looking at new channels, but what those channels were building us for is massive audience expansion, massive distribution expansion. What we're looking for here is, do we need to be acquired? Do we need an investor? Do we need like somebody to partner with us in order for us to really get to that next step? This is where like Poppy was like a year or so ago when they got acquired by, was it PepsiCo? They got acquired by PepsiCo and now they're able to be distributed everywhere. Again, they're in every grocery store, they're everywhere. Because what you're doing here is you have to streamline, systemize, and kind of outsource a lot of the fulfillment. So if you have a clothing line, if you don't already have a 3PL, which is basically somebody that completely manages your fulfillment, your production, everything, or just your fulfillment where your production sends it there, but they are shipping, they have everything going on. We are taking a lot of things out of house at this point. You should not be having like a $5 million business unless you want to build it all in your own headquarters and have people but it's going to be really hard to build at this point. What we're trying to do is really mass market, get some distribution channels here. We're focusing on sustainability. We're focusing on outsourcing. We're focusing on how can we actually like remove the things that are actually from your team's, not plate, but like how can we get things out into other different softwares? Some of that comes from investors. Some of it comes from partners. Some of it comes from, distribution partners, different things like that. What we're trying to do here is you are protecting the vision, not just the business anymore. You are protecting the values. You are protecting who your brand is and what you're really looking to build from here. And a lot of the different pieces here is going to be creativity, standing out. How can we look at your business and say, how can we kind of make a splash? How can we have a campaign that's a little outlandish? How can we send influencers something that is like really in your face? This is where you can have more fun and have more creativity because you have more profit and a little bit more money to work with, that now you can really have some really fun campaigns, really do it up big, and making sure that that long-term vision is what is actually happening. So here is where we're really looking at that freedom fully and not just having revenue. We're looking at how can, for you as the founder, a lot of times at this point, you have like a CMO, a COO, a CFO, a CCO, and it's not to say that you're not involved anymore, because I know anybody listening to this, that's not what you want, but you have people, you are a lot more of the leader and they are the executors. You're approving things, you're making bold action, you're creating relationships, but you're a lot of the face of the brand or the brain of the brand, and a lot of other people are kind of executing from you. You become the visionary, not just the operator in this perspective here. So what we're looking for is you're saying, where do I want to go and how do I have to do that? The sky's the limit at this point. You have a lot of options. Again, again, you have investors. You will probably have people that are offering to buy your business by this point. You have a lot of different pieces kind of at work. And what we're trying to do at this point in business is really identify what is your long-term vision, what is the like values that your brand still holds, and how can we make sure that we streamline that process, get you out into other distribution channels from there. So what I really want to note here is we have 7 different phases. We have the pre-revenue validation phase, where we're really just focusing on getting your foundations concrete. Then we have the early revenue phase up to like $50,000. And this is getting your marketing and your sales. We're getting gritty with it. We're starting to see what is working, and we double down on that to get you to stage 3, which is consistent sales. You have a reliable sales channel. You know where people are coming from. You have a community that's buying from you. You have hopefully return customers that are working, and you're kind of in that more stability phase. This is where things start to be hopefully a little bit more profitable for you. And this is where you have those consistent sales. Your sales and your marketing, this is all stuff that we teach inside of PTP. As I've said, this is more of your focus is on sales and marketing and just getting money in the bank. How do we get more people in the bank? How do we really improve some of that? And then we go in to building out your back end. Then we go into building out some more infrastructure. How do we streamline this? How do we optimize? This is where we analyze, sustain, optimize, and then we work on overall expansion. This is that growth phase where we really focus on brand awareness, and we really focus on making sure that we see where the gaps are, as well as we see who's buying from you, how can we really get in front of your aligned audience? And then we go about, again, building more infrastructure, streamlining more of the behind the scenes before we grow again. We're doing this back and forth of building infrastructure and picking one of the 4 major expansion techniques. And then we build more infrastructure, and then we pick one or more of the expansion techniques, where then we're looking at more distribution channels. So a lot of times people go sales, marketing, get to consistent sales, expand your brand awareness so you have more people, more evidence, more data, more sales, build the infrastructure. And then you go into distribution channels. How can we get out into new places? How can we, get in front of new people in that sense, from a distribution perspective, from a wholesale perspective? And then you go back to building infrastructure for you to then major scale in that multi-million-dollar growth in phase 7 to get you to that sustainable growth where things are kind of a little bit more on autopilot, a little bit more streamlined, and then they are working for you there. I record this episode that is a little bit longer than my average episode because I have so many people come to me and they're unsure of what business growth really looks like. And this is what business growth looks like. I work with brands from this pre-revenue stage all the way, honestly, past that stage 7 where they're in that multi-million-dollar level. And I share this to tell you that it takes different strategies at different stages in business. It takes different focuses. The same thing that got you to where you are is not going to get you to that next step. You have to realize that there's different pieces and there's stages, and it is a forever fluid, ever-growing beast, your business. You have to understand what it takes at different levels, which is why a lot of people have somebody like me to be able to come in and be like, oh no, this is normal. This is what we need to do in order to get there. Again, I just want to say that the revenue markers are kind of a little bit of a, I don't know, they're just loose, right? Because some people are anomalies. Some people have gotten to this point, but they're not making the sales. Some people are doing some of these things. Like, of course, again, every business is very nuanced, but this is a good kind of general overview that I really want to share with you. I help people at all of these different levels. Those first kind of 2 to 3 phases is within my product to profit program. And the final stages, everything after that is personalized, private, strategic advisory, where I'm coming in and I am basically acting as a private advisor for you to tell you what to do, streamline some of those processes. And because it is so nuanced at that point, those first 2 phases are a lot more of a framework. Yes, we're doing a lot of testing. Yes, we're doing a lot of refining. Yes, it takes my eyes in your business to really see what is your long-term goal? How do we want to build? How can we kind of create a marketing plan that works for you? But at the end of the day, those final stage, like those more back half of those phases, the scaling phases, what that is all about, it's all about refinement. It's all about getting everything perfect. It's about kind of having the perfect fit, the perfect blend of everything working together. And that looks very different whether or not how you're choosing to scale, what your values are from there. If you're ever interested in support, I've had people say like, Maddie, I had no idea that I can actually work with you. And then they find me on Instagram. I would love to work with you guys at any of these capacities through any of these. If you have any questions, you guys know that my DMs are open. If you're sitting here being like, Maddie, I have no idea what you just said. You just talked gibberish at me for 45 minutes. We should chat, because what we're really talking about here is strategy. We're talking about intention, and we're talking about building with a plan. Would love to discuss with you. My Instagram is @thisismadisonpage. You can reach out to me there and say growth. Otherwise, you can click my link in the show notes and actually apply there. And then we can just sit on a call and have a good little discussion. But realizing that every phase in business takes a different approach. It takes something new. We're constantly going to be trying something new, which is why you have to understand what is coming as you grow. Okay, we're at like, $500,000. We're at this point. We have these benchmarks within our numbers. Now we have to do this other thing. We have to really pivot. We're kind of constantly going back and forth between growth and infrastructure. If you've never done it before, it can be totally wild. And that phase 5 you can stick in that for 3 years. And you're like, why can I not break $500,000 in sales? And it's probably because you're not doing some of the necessary tasks of what you need to know and what you need to do in order to actually get you to that front. Or you try to jump to phase 7 and you're getting across distribution channels and you have all of these holes in your marketing and all of these holes in your sales process, and then, oh my gosh, it's just a disaster. So in order to streamline it and to organize it all and to make sure that we are mitigating any issues that we could have, these are the processes that you really can go through, and these are the different stages of growth that you're looking for. If you have any questions for me, as always, reach out. My DMs are always open. We will be talking about this in our community today as well, kind of identifying what phase you might be in. Would love to hear what phase you are in and what phase you are really looking to go by the end of this year, how we're really trying to go from there. I hope you have a wonderful day. I love you. I'm rooting for you, and I'm in your corner always. If you found today's episode helpful and are looking for more tangible ways to grow your business, make sure you are subscribed to the show. If you want to dive deeper into this topic more, click the link in the show notes and join our completely free podcast community, where we dive into every single podcast topic, as well as give some bonus support and free coaching calls. And finally, if you are interested in getting my eyes on your business to find your hidden opportunities to scale, apply to work with me one-on-one in the show notes or on our website. Remember, it's not enough to listen. Don't forget to implement too. I love ya. I'll see you in the next episode.